Hi, my name is Angela Montoya. I am the critically acclaimed, according to my editor, author of A Cruel Thirst, Sinner's Isle, and forthcoming Carnival Fantastico, as well as a few other short stories in anthologies, one being Owl Crate Press's very first anthology, Monsters in Masquerade. Now, you might have seen me around, you might not have. If not, hi, so good to meet you. If you do know me, hey, hey, you might be wondering, what the hell are you doing on YouTube? What in the actual F are you doing here? And where are you? What is this weird ass background? The reason why I'm here on YouTube is because I really and truly want a place where I can kind of just yap about my author journey. It's been years now that I've been on this path, and I want to kind of have a place to land and sort of remind myself of how far I've come. I also have a podcast of the publishing persuasion with my co-host Melanie Schubert, and that is another safe space that I have. It is so freaking fun to co-host a podcast. We interview authors and agents and other people in the publishing world, but I wanted to put my personal journey like down somewhere that I can have it organized, or as organized as my brain will allow, just to have it. And hopefully maybe it'll be a resource for budding authors, for people in all stages of their journey. And hopefully it's a reminder that if I could do it, you can absolutely do it. Truly, you just have to be delusional and you'll get there. Because that's how I do it. And then back to, what is this space? This is actually my office. I promise you, it's much prettier looking this way. Okay, I have bookshelves that are so gorgeous and aesthetic. However, the lighting is way better this way. So this is about me. Okay, pretend this looks so cool and professional, and that this treadmill does not look like it's from 1980, which it might be. And in fact, it sounds like it is when I do put it on. Anyway, I wanted to start this very first episode by just talking about myself, as I love to do, and talking about my journey to becoming an author, a critically acclaimed author, mind you. At first, when I saw that added to my name in my author bio, I was like, what does this mean? But it's true. I am critically acclaimed. I have trade reviews and starred reviews from places like Kirkus, Booklist, and other things that I cannot think of at the moment. Back to where it all freaking began. I was born on a crisp fall day, Halloween to be precise. Okay, I'm not going to take you that far back. Um, that's way back, and we don't need to go there. My brothers are still bitter that I was born on Halloween and ruined their fun, but that's just me. Here I am to ruin everyone's fun. Anyway, back to the beginning of my author journey. In 2016, my partner and I bought a property. It needed a lot of work, and so I decided to quit my job and spend my time like trying to help renovate this place, clean up this property. And it was great. I loved it. Both of my kids at that time had like started school full time. And so it was really like lovely to have this time to help out around the place and stuff. However, I really and truly had no creative outlet besides painting decks. I was missing something that was feeding my soul. I just felt like I didn't know what the hell I what the hell. I didn't know what the hell. Purpose, I didn't know nothing. I was just lost. I was floundering. When my like kids were little, I took up reading again, and I became like addicted to story. Strangely, at my daughter's gymnastics class, they had like old romance books for sale. So I remember buying for 25 cents my very first Nora Roberts book. And I oh my God. The Circle trilogy, okay, it was like my first romantasy. It was, and I didn't know what romantasy was. Romantasy didn't exist then. It was everything. I gobbled that shit up, but I was still like missing something for me, some kind of outlet. So after we had moved into the place and my partner probably saw me staring out into the abyss, he suggested I should try writing. He took note that I have loved books. And to be honest, I come from a family of storytellers. My grandfather, Jose Montoya, was a poet laureate for Sacramento. My father was a poet. And my uncle, Richard Montoya, is an actor. He's a playwright. You may have seen him in Nacho Libre as one of the priests. Which I love bragging about. I love it. Talking about he's had diarrhea since Easter's. That was my uncle. So I've had this writer influence, this storyteller influence in my life since I was born. And I always watched these men in reverence, and I loved seeing them talk about what's on their heart, what's on their mind. What my grandfather would talk about, was the Chicano rights movement. And so like I've always watched these men tell these stories and be so powerful and humorous as they were doing so. And so when my partner said, "Why don't you try it?" I thought, what the fuck? Why the hell not? And I kind of just like let myself be delusional and let myself try. I did. I stole my partner's laptop. I didn't have one at the time. I didn't have a need for one, to be honest. And so I took his and I just started writing kind of like the first thing that came to mind, the first thing that brought me joy. And that first thing for me was automatically young adult fantasy. Before then, like when I was telling you, I loved reading books. Part of that also was it was a bonding experience for myself and my youngest sister. We would exchange books back and forth, like the Divergent series, Matched, The Hunger Games, Twilight, what other hitter? Anything Cassandra Clare. We were exchanging, but we loved it, and we would go to the midnight premieres of the movies that would come out um, from the books, and so it was such a beautiful, fun time for me that when it came time to meet for me to try and start writing, I just so easily landed in the young adult fantasy space because that's what I love. And romance is what I love as well. So it really worked out that romantasy was becoming a thing when I started writing. That first story, I was just throwing things at the page, just kind of just pantsing my way through an entire story, not knowing what the actual fuck I was doing. And I was having the most fun creating this story. After I had finished writing it, which probably took me a full year maybe to write out from beginning to end, but once I had gotten to like this finished thing, because it really wasn't a story, like there was no inciting incident that I really knew, like there was no like structure. It was just me like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and but I was having a blast. But after I had finished that first story, kind of sat back and was like, okay, well, what next? What in the hell do I do? For me, I like reached out to my one of my good friends and I asked her to read it. And then I sent it to a few other like family members and was like, don't tell anybody. I wrote this thing. What do you think? And I think they lied to me and they said it was really good. And I really appreciate that because it made me keep going. And it was like there were parts that were really good. Like it was really fun, but really it was just like a fanfic of Cassandra Clare. Like it was just like a mashup of like all my favorite things that she had written. And I just put it all in there. And I was so proud of it. I'm not going to lie. But but I felt so I guess insecure about what to do, or if I even like belonged in a writerly space. I didn't finish college. I didn't do any courses for writing, nothing of that sort. So I was kind of like, I think you have to be really smart to do this. Like, I think you have to be smarter than me to do such a thing. I kind of grappled with this like this mean thought of like, oh, you know, girl, it was fun while it lasted, but you really don't belong here. And sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'm still here 3 books down, and I still feel that way. You know, I know that there are people that are much smarter than me, way more talented than me, and to be honest, at this stage in my career, it doesn't I don't let that intimidate me. I let it motivate me and inspire me. Like, I love reading stories that are so good. You're like, damn, I want to do that. Like, I want to get to that level, and I want to try and level up. And I think that's really kind of what I did after I finished writing this first book. I was like, damn, I want it to be on shelves. Like, I want this to become a thing. And I became addicted to the idea of becoming a published fucking author. Like, I wanted it so bad after I finished that draft. So, what I did was I hopped on YouTube. Hey, YouTube. I hopped on YouTube. I started reading blogs. I started trying to learn what I was missing. And the truth of the matter, I really, even though I was like learning these things, I don't think I really like grasped the art of storytelling until I kept going, until I started reading other budding authors' works, and we were like doing ideas back and forth and just learning and growing. I think for me, the way I learn is to have to like dig my feet into the dirt and like learn one step at a time. Well, after a while of I kept revising, I kept trying to make the story better. I hired an editor to help me with it, but still it like wasn't there. And I was learning that it wasn't there through agents, because right around that time when I really felt like I had revised it to the best of my ability at that time, I started to query, because as I was learning about like how to plot and story structure, I was also learning like, okay, well, what's next? And querying was the next step for me. It was too intimidated by the idea of indie publishing or self-publishing. I knew that I needed help. I knew I needed all hands on deck. Okay. So traditional publishing was the only way I really felt comfortable moving forward. But like as I was querying this first book, I was getting some, not yeses, but I was getting agents asking for fulls. I was getting agents looking at it, which was so freaking exciting and scary. But they all kind of were saying the same thing, which was like, love the characters, love what you're got going on here, but the world building needs work. I think it needs like more time, and it was true. As much as it freaking hurt, it was so true. And I'm so glad that I decided to put that book down for a little bit, because at that point I had edited it as much as I could, and I didn't know what else could be done with it. And so I put it down. And before I even started writing anything else, I read, How to Save a Cat. I think that's what it's called. Story Genius. Any craft book I could get a hold of, I started reading them, taking notes. I really and truly wanted to understand the craft of writing. I wanted to understand what those agents were telling me, which is like how to build worlds. Because again, I had never done anything like this in my life, ever. Which I hope is encouraging to anybody that's watching, and maybe you're in the same position as I was. Or even if you have gone to school and done all the things, it's still so intimidating. And I think I mentioned this at the beginning, like, live on delusions, because you have to believe in yourself first, no matter what. you have to be the one that's like picking yourself up after all the no's. So after I did all of that research, an idea came to me, and that idea was Sinner's Isle. What would become Sinner's Isle? It didn't start off as a fully fleshed book. No, 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 no. It took me time, but I did it, and I had the tools to revise this time. I had the tools to plot and do the inciting incident and all of these things. I had it in my belt because I learned from my first book, and I had learned from all these craft books and YouTube tutorials and blogs. I had done the research. With the second book, the idea came to me, and I plotted the story out all the way to the very end. I even like pretty much wrote like a zero draft of it. And then I learned it was all wrong. It wasn't the story I wanted to tell. And so I went back and I rewrote what would become Sinner's Isle. And then I revised it. And by this time I had been building a community. So I had other author friends, writer friends who were willing to read it and critique it. And I was so like open to learning and being critiqued because I just wanted to know how to be better. I just wanted to get better than what I was even the day before. And so around the time I had finished Sinner's Isle and I was like close to like, okay, I think I can query this. Like I think it's as good as it's gonna get. Pitch Wars, which was a mentorship program, which was amazing. Sadly, it's not doesn't exist anymore. But right around that time, Pitch Wars opened up for submissions. I submitted my book to Pitch Wars, hoping that it would be picked up and hoping that somebody could help me learn even more. I pitched it to 4 different mentors. Um, I had interest from 2, which was wild. And then I got picked by Margie Fuston, who is a New York Times bestselling author, by the way. Look her up. If you don't know her, you should. But I got picked up by Margie freaking Fuston, and she, I feel like, changed my entire life. She gave me the confidence to do this thing, to go even harder. Because again, like I said, I didn't finish college. I didn't take any writing courses before. So I wasn't sure if I was a good enough writer or could really do something with this. But she saw my writing. She saw Sinner's Isle for what I was hoping it to be, and she helped me get there. And after Pitch Wars, I queried the damn book. And a few months later, I had 3 offers of representation, went and chose my agent still, Larissa Mello Pankowski. And we did some more work on Sinner's Isle, and then we put it out on submission, which means we pitched it to editors. 6 to 8 months after we went on submission, which I can get to a whole thing about that, it was picked up, and we had interest from, I think it was 5 editors at one point, and then we went to auction. And so I sold Sinner's Isle and part of a 2-book deal at auction, which was really cool, actually. I mean, now that like it was amazing to be so insecure and have imposter syndrome so much, but battle through it and pretend like I was cocky and like I was the shit and I was a bad bitch, but really just faking it the whole time, to selling it to Joy Revolution, which is an amazing imprint under Penguin Random House. We went to work and edited again and again and again, and Sinner's Isle came out October 31st of 2023. So I had started writing back in like February of 2017. And here I was, October 31st, 2023, with a book. With this book, actually. With this book. Well, not this book. It came out in hardback, but you get the point, okay? Once that came out, I started working on what would become my second book, my sophomore novel, A Cruel Thirst. And then we pitched a third book to Joy Revolution, and that is Carnival Fantastico, which comes out February 3rd, 2026. I know this is a long-winded ass story, but I guess telling myself this all over again because really and truly I've come so far, like so far. But every single time I try something new, I want to do it better and I want to learn from what I've done. Every time, like, I think about this book, I can think of all the things I wish I did different. And I think that shows growth as an author, as a human. So, anyway, thank you for listening to me yap. If you have any questions about my journey, what I've learned, anything specific, like please ask me and I'll try and do videos. I'll try to do this regularly where I just kind of yap about the things that I've learned and things I wish I did differently, things I wish I did better, all of it. I am ready to do this YouTube journey and have this like digital footprint of what I have done. I don't want to forget how far I've come. So, yeah, thank you for listening. If you have listened this whole way, I appreciate you. I really do. You're probably super hot and so smart. And you probably smell really good because you obviously are wonderful and attractive. And and people love you and people like you. That's it for now. The next time I do my hair, I will record something. Bye.